Sahana vavatu Sahanao bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So Sthitaprañja, the one of steady wisdom, the perfect human being, is what we have been studying. The last part of chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. So after giving the answers to Arjuna's question as to what is the description of an enlightened soul, Krishna moves on to what we need to do to get there. So as we've been discussing, that's the basis for understanding life. The self, the source of true happiness lies within you. But it is the thoughts that go from you to the world that make you extrovert, that disturb this whole process of looking within. So you're lost in that, literally a quagmire, a quicksand of perceptions, emotions, and thoughts. And the Supreme Self remains hidden all through your life. So that's what he talks about in 62 and 63. Only a human being has been given the intellect to be able to analyze the thought. So you must understand, no other creature has been given that capacity to analyze its thoughts. A moth sees a flame, it feels attracted to it, it just runs and dies. It flies to it and dies. It's not been given the capacity to think, should I go along with this thought? This is it. And nowhere in the world is there any education to help you build that intellect, to be able to question your own thoughts. So all through life, we blindly follow our thoughts. And that's what he talked about in 62, 63. They become this desires, obsessions, attachments, fear, anxiety, delusion. And these have gripped the human being and destroyed the peace and happiness within. So then in 64 and 65, he talks about the reverse. If you question the thought, which requires effort and self-control, because the mind has developed a force, you have to build it, bring it back with your intellect. My family, it's a force of attachment. You have to question, what are you doing? It's not there. So when you control the thought force, that's when you're going to get somewhere. You become peaceful. That's what he says. And when you're peaceful, it becomes easier to apply your intellect. And you get more peace. And the more intellect you have, the more focus you have, you're even successful in your work, in life. So what else do you want? So the intellect gives you peace, prosperity, and takes you towards the Supreme Self, all powerful, all important is the intellect. And in 66, which we concluded last time, he just summarized. If you don't have the knowledge, the intellect, that focus, you cannot be peaceful. You cannot be peaceful. How can you be happy? So beautifully he builds that up. All through this, throughout the Gita, in fact. It's pure logic and reason to help you understand how life functions. So there was a question, because I had mentioned that one of the aspects of self-control is not to linger in the past, right? And one of the ways lingering is all these pictures all over everybody's homes. So somebody started questioning, what am I doing? So they had do we have it? Yeah. Oh, Gita's question on the Gita. Okay. I would like to ask about the ritual of having photographs of deceased family members at home, sometimes in our temple room. Indian homes have a temple. Is this the right way of remembering them? So this is not what I was talking about. I'm glad somebody asked this, because God knows what you guys will do. When they'll take all the pictures and put them and create disharmony. So the past ones who have left us, you keep their pictures. That I would say is fine as a remembrance of the values they have left behind. Not of the person itself, but how you can imbibe the values. See, in those days, the elders were supposed to set the standard with high values, which they left behind for the next generation. So not only pictures, you had rituals to remember them, etc., etc. But that is to remember the values, how you can inculcate in their life. In fact, the body has passed. That is why in India you cremate. It's done. It's over. There should be no trace left of it. The elements should go back to the elements. Let the earth have it. Because the mind intellect moves on to the next embodiment. So why keep on hanging? So you burn it. So in fact, there's no remembrance. You move on. But if at all you remember, it is how can I use the positive qualities in my life? Not as a means of attachment. So what I was saying, in the homes they have nothing to do with the past one, present ones. Not just present, you. Your picture 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you go on looking and lingering in the past. The children, when they were 5, when they were 6, when they were 7, or 8, they were 9. So all the time you are lingering in past. If you want to enjoy your children, talk to them now, man. Why are you going on looking at the past, which is gone? Now they don't talk to each other, but they'll have pictures everywhere. So you don't. So what I was saying is, what the Gita is saying, the self-control means you don't let your present be disturbed by past experiences. No doubt you learn from them. But the only thing you have in control, friends, is your present moment. Make sure you're using it wisely. Everybody wastes their life worrying about the dead past and being anxious about the unborn future. So you're living in death and unborn. Never in the present. See, it's like right now you've come here to listen to this class, right? Just listen. Why do you imagine if you start thinking about what you did last evening and what you're going to do this evening? Now, why are you coming here? This whole experience is gone. So, I told you last week also, end your perception with perception. You enjoy something, move on. Whole world is exactly opposite. Earlier you used to need a camera, all the fellows used to move around with the fat cameras on there, hanging around. Now you don't need even that phone. Just see how easy they've made it to go on lingering. Phones after pictures. Anytime you feel like FaceTime, your face, my face. Whole goal of Vedanta is to remove that egocentric desires. So everything is opposed to that. So I understand how difficult it is. But at least some effort you can make. Let me do what I need to do right now, because that's what will help me. You're only trying to help yourself. So if at all you remember, it's, am I living those values that were left behind? Now the problem is the values themselves are low, what they've left behind. They themselves are attached, involved. What values? I told you, in our academy, see, many of you are going there, right, for retreats and all. In India, not one picture of my guru, who's founded it, who's run it, and not one picture of the founder itself. Can you believe? Nowhere in the academy you'll see his picture. So why go on? What are you learning there is the question. Clear? So this was 66 and 67. Now he comes back to the thought which he left in verse 60. You got to make a note of that. Actually, the 67th verse should be the 61st verse, if you see the flow of thought. But he left that thought in 60 and he's rejoined it in 67, which I'll explain why. But all of you clear thus far?
Gautamji, I have a question.
Yeah.
So in the last few classes, you emphasized on self-control and you mentioned everything boils down to intellect. And you also mentioned until the intellect is strengthened, the mind has to have like a tight schedule, morning to evening, and all, so you don't get involved. Still, you can get involved, so you have to focus on the higher goals.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tendency of the mind is to focus on what I don't have, my deficiencies. Can focusing on the abundant things, can that be used as a coping mechanism? For example, we just take water and start drinking, but when we see somebody where they're struggling because they don't have coordination of the involuntary muscles, then we feel bad that.
Right.
So can focusing on the abundant things we have rather than the deficiencies, can that also help as a coping technique until the intellect is strengthened?
Yeah, so you're asking, we are all the time thinking of what we don't have, which disturbs us. So, till we build the intellect to be able to focus on the higher, would focusing on what we already have help? Definitely it will help. Definitely. There's a saying, I complained I had no shoes until I met a man with no feet. I complained I had no shoes until I met a man who had no feet. This is what you're saying. Of course. We have no idea. You got two eyes to see. It's an incredible thing. You know how many people don't have eyes? I know of two or three, not three actually, different families where there's some genetic, I can't think of anything sad than that, And the prime of youth, they start losing their eyesight. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. Nothing, zero. Even the best doctors, they can't do. Now you are complaining, I don't have designer sunglasses. That's what you're saying. My friend has a pair of sunglasses that cost $1,000. Mine only cost $100. That's your complaint. You got two eyes to see. You have no idea. Suppose a billionaire lost his eyes, what would he not do to get back his eyes? He'll give all his money, right? $1 billion, 10 billion. You're already a billionaire. You have two eyes. Do you know that? How much would a person give for ears, for nose, for teeth? So, if you look at that, you are you will definitely feel that sense of fulfillment, at least temporarily. The mind is so diseased, again it will go back. Don't worry. That's why there is a temporary measure, but it will help. In fact, now that you brought it up, uh, I must have not talked about it for a long time. Uh, my guru calls it you must have a horizontal and a vertical view of life. Horizontal means in the same plane. So let's say you've lost a job, okay. Hmm. Now you feel agitated. But why don't you look at that experience vis-a-vis what's going on with the 8 billion people in the world? Hmm. In Syria, what is happening? Fellows have no home. Everywhere you see war, Ukraine. I mean, it's incredible the suffering going on. You just lost a job, go find another one. So, if you look at it in terms of what everybody is going through at this moment in time, this is called a horizontal view. Immediately, your little thing loses its significance. Big deal. Hmm. Forget about losing a job. Uh, Food is not made to your satisfaction. One day is the end of the world. I remember, I was, when we were brought up, it was a joint family those days. A big house and 20, 30 fellows living in it. When I was very young, when we moved out. And we had over, I don't know, 8, 10 staff, help, domestic help. One for cleaning, one for this, one for cooking. 2, 3 fellows for cooking only. And my grand uncle, grandfather died very young, so his old younger brother. I've seen him. When the cook doesn't make the food to his liking, he takes the plate and throws it at the fellow. He throws it on his. That's how they used to treat them. There was so much poverty those days, so those guys were helpless. I remember when I was a child, look, see, uh, just because salt is less, you got to create such a big hullabaloo. Hmm. I'm not full. Just don't be full one day. Nothing will happen. After eating 10 things, this is little light. I'm feeling little light still. Actually, light-headed, that's all it is. Light I'm feeling. So, big deal. You didn't eat food one day, right? So, Somalia, I don't know where, Sudan, millions of people have nothing to eat for days on it. Days. So, what are you going through? Each one of you is better off than 99% of this world. So, that's a horizontal view, right? I'm expanding further. Then is a vertical view, means if you look at your whole life's experiences till now, what is this experience in that? Hmm. See, when you were a child, let's say you failed an exam. Hmm. You wouldn't have failed. The whole day you study only. So, let's say you failed, argument's sake. Because once I remember I failed in singing. I don't know what, some nonsense he made me sing or something. That's the only time I remember. Singing or craft? Craft, no, not singing, craft. Made me stitch something. It looked like, it looked better before it was, before that thing was made. I don't know. So paradharmik. Sit and stitch. So, what is that failure in your whole life? But at that time, it's like it's such a big thing. Oh my God, I failed. I failed. And what is that compared to today? What is that failure? Those days, so like that, if you look at it, what is this experience compared to my whole life? It loses its significance. So you look at life in these ways, definitely your mind will become peaceful temporarily. But that obsession with the next thing is so much, it will take over. So the only way to control that, that's why I said, is to build your intellect. But temporarily, yes, you must look at what you have. And you will find there's nothing worth complaining about. But truly speaking, if you get onto the spiritual path, even the greatest things will not affect you. If you're genuinely a seeker, even death comes, you'll understand this is not the right environment for me. Move on, push on. What is there? Yes, Vikram.
Gautamji, there's a question from Anurag. I think the context is lingering on the past. And the question is, should we not go to museums of history?
Museum, see, again, lingering, now you must understand, in fact, good you asked, because we're not saying don't go into the past. Lingering means when the mind goes into the past experience on its own to indulge in it. That is lingering. But if you're doing something with your intellect, you believe you should know something about the past, and a museum or a book or anything would help you, that I wouldn't say that's lingering. That has been done with the intellect. Lingering would be you go to that museum of history, the experience is over, and right now you're thinking of it. Instead of focusing on the lecture right now, which you want to listen to, you're thinking about, oh, what a beautiful exhibition it was on Alexander. And you're thinking of yourself as Alexander. I am on that horse. Poor horse. That's all I can say. So that is lingering. So again, nothing wrong with the past, but when your mind goes into the past by itself and disturbs what you believe you should be doing in the present, that is lingering. But if your intellect consciously goes into the past, yes, this is where I made a mistake, this is what I need to learn from, that is not lingering. Or like you gave an example, I'd like to know more about a particular subject that will help me understand the world better. There's a saying, history is nothing but philosophy teaching through examples. I think Lord Bolingbroke, English fellow, he said it. History is nothing but philosophy teaching us through examples. Actually, you don't need history now that you brought it up, because if you know philosophy, history is nothing but philosophy being played out. What is history? Oh, Alexander, what did he do? He lusted for more and more wealth and territory. The mind is insatiable. You'll see that throughout history. And any impediment to your desire, you will destroy. These are all the dictators and all. What is the history? Once you know philosophy, you know everything. You see all history as nothing but human nature. In fact, your goal is to transcend human nature and become the supreme self, the divinity itself. That is your goal. So that should be clear. Got it? Hmm? Yes, yes. Clarification.
Yes, Hariom Gautamji. I just had a very simple question. We haven't started talking about vasanas yet, because our thoughts, some of what I've been exposed to and still learning, I still find that a very hard concept, but some of our thoughts are a result of our vasanas. I may be wrong in understanding that. So my question is very simple. We get into that. Will Lord Krishna get into that when talking to Arjuna? Because right now he's spoken about the thoughts, the desires, Sthitaprañja and all that. But unless I've missed it, I don't think he has gotten into talking about vasanas.
See, you missed everything because vasana is nothing but unmanifest thoughts. Vasanas, you don't know what they are because vasanas are beyond your intellect. You can't understand them. So, Shreyas, right now, let's say you're what's your profession? What are you?
Just call me a marketing guy.
Marketing guy. Okay. Just call me a marketing guy. Instead of all that, marketing. So this is clarity. Marketing. What it means is you have marketing vasanas. Therefore your thoughts are of marketing. You studied marketing and your actions are to market products, whatever. Versus a person who's an accountant. His vasanas are accounting. So vasanas is nothing but your inherent tendencies, your inclinations. And according to those, your thoughts arise. Thoughts become desires. Desires become actions. So vasana, thought, desire, action, it's all the same thing. It's only a further expression of the same thing.
Okay.
So when he says desires, he means vasanas. That's what I'm saying. So it's not missed anything. It's understood. These are terms used interchangeably. The problem is, what he's talking about here in Sthitaprañja is, you go along with your thoughts, make them into these desires and all the complications and attachments and actions. So what is happening is you are creating more of the same vasanas. So you are becoming further entangled as you go through life. So if you have an intellect, you must in fact remove the existing vasanas. That's how you get to enlightenment. So don't worry. Everything is about vasana, thought, desire, action. And beyond vasanas lies the self, the soul, the God principle, consciousness. So the whole effort is to remove the vasanas. But since we don't know vasanas per se, vasana is the state when you're in deep sleep. That is the state of pure vasanas. It's a state of nothingness. So where are all your marketing desires when you're in deep sleep? They're all there, but they're unmanifest. When you wake up, they come back again. You see? So your whole personality in deep sleep is the state of vasanas. You understand that first and digest that. Okay?
Thank you.
67.
Indriyanam vicharatam yanmano vidhiyate tadasya harate prajñam mayurnavamibhamhasi. Manonuvithiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamibhamhasi.
For the mind which follows the roving senses carries away his intellect as the wind, a boat on water. So in verse 60, he said the senses drag away the mind. If you go back to 60, you'll see that. So 61 should have been this verse. This verse should have been 61. And the mind which follows the senses carries away the intellect. So why did he not do that? Because from 61 to 66, which we have just been doing, he's explained in great detail what? The importance, the necessity of the intellect. Because only if you understand how important it is, will this verse make a difference to you. That my intellect will go. Then I'm gone. That should hit you. Since it was never there, how can you understand what it means to have gone? Right? It's not there only. That's the whole problem. So at least you should now understand what you have within you. Such a powerful equipment. It's like having a missile in your backyard and using a bow and arrow. It has no meaning. So the whole thing starts with that outward look, which is the senses. As we were just saying, the minute you wake up, the vasanas start manifesting as thoughts. What happens? The senses, all five senses open. And that's your world. Right? Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. And that's the world. So there's a push from within, which is your vasanas, and there's a pull from the world, which is the senses, the sense objects. And the mind gets led away. And the intellect is gone. That is the significance of the chariot also. See, so many different similes they give. Here he's using the wind carrying away a boat on water. So this metaphor of the boat is used a lot in the scriptures. So on one side is the shore of sorrow and mortality. On the other side is bliss and immortality. That's enlightenment. Enlightenment is infinite bliss and the permanent deathless state of pure consciousness. So where is that and where are we? And in between these two shores is the ocean of what? Of life. Correct. Is the life. And you are that boat. And the wind is the gusts of the mind's desires. And you have a captain, the intellect, to steer and navigate through those storms. But if you don't have an intellect, you're toppled. That's what he says. As the wind carries away a boat on the water. So spiritually speaking, we are just lost in that vast ocean of samsara. Samsara means this worldly entanglement. Endless. You have no idea. You get into anything, it's endless. Anything. You think you want a child, you think that's it? It's endless. Then the child's education, then the child's health, then the child's wealth, then which partner they're going to have, then their children, their career. Any one thing is endless. This is what he says. The wind is just, the shore is there and the wind is just carrying you all over the place. Endless desires, endless. Yesterday, someone was telling me, he says, I got a big promotion at work. And so I said, congratulations, and it's great to hear because I know you work with it. He says, that's not what I'm telling you. Of course, that's good. The minute I got the promotion, I'm thinking of the next. He said, I can't believe my own mind. That's why I'm telling you. He said, I just started reading the promotion letter and I'm angling for the fellow who wrote me that letter whenever I replace him. So you move from 100 to 200, immediately it's 1,000. So any way you look at it, your career, your family, your health, your wealth, it's endless. So you ultimately succumb, friends. This is what happens. Stress and agitation, depression, divorces, corruption, greed. All over the world you see the same thing. Everybody is a slave of their mind. So if you have any sense whatsoever, little sense, you will say whatever time is there, I should go into as close to that shore as possible. That determination should be there. It's there now. All of you after the class, you'll be very determined. This is I must get to the self. You see what happens in the next 15-20 minutes. It's all gone. The mind just takes over again. With a bhajan also he says, no, chanchala man. There's a bhajan which we before he says the mind. Chanchala means this wavering mind. Get your focus on the self, Rama, on the self. Gehra sagar tuti naiya. He says the Gehra means this ocean is deep and long, and this boat is breaking. Every moment the body is decaying. Decay, disease, death is inevitable. Jivan tarani Rama khivaya. But if you have that focus, you can cross it. There is no focus now, what can you do? Focus is on the ocean. These nice fish over there. A boat is breaking. Fish are nice. This is good. What can you say? So the senses, the mind, intellect, and this boat of life is lost. And you got to come back. You got to keep coming back because your goal is the self. Until you get to the self, you have to keep coming back. And in 68, he gives the conclusion. So, perfection is not enlightenment in terms of course, it is enlightenment. Here he gives perfection in terms of a person who's committed to enlightenment. What is the test of that person?
Tasmadhyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyathebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita.
Therefore, tasmat, this is the conclusion now, O Mahabaho, mighty armed, his wisdom is established, whose senses are completely restrained from the sense objects. So now he gives the reason, right? We talked about it. 60, the senses drag the mind. 61, control the senses, focus on the self. 62 and 63, if you don't, the ladder of fall. 64 and 65, intellect gives peace, peace gives you more intellect. 66, no control, no intellect, no peace. 67, mind drags the intellect, you're gone. So 68, he pinpoints where is perfection. If you have a control over that first point, that attraction to the sense object, you're done. You're almost there. So again, Vedanta is not saying you should not enjoy the senses. Now this is where people misunderstand. See, you take this verse and say, wisdom means no enjoying the senses at all, nothing to do with the world. Sorry, I don't want it. And I would agree with that person. But he's not saying that. If you believe that those senses, emotions, thoughts are an impediment to your spiritual path, that is where the control has to be established. See, you feel like having a drink, it's okay. But once you believe your drinking is affecting your life, that is where the control has to come, right? You can't become an alcohol. You want to eat junk food once in a while, it's fine. But you believe after that point is going to affect your health, you have to say no. It's as simple as that. It's common sense. So similarly, you have a higher purpose in life. You participate in the world, but you believe it's going to be an impediment. For example, simple example, which I've told you all, you have to get up in the morning and study if you want to build your intellect. 5 to 6. Okay, 5:30 to 6:30 latest. But you believe you have a weakness for watching TV, movies beyond your sleep time. That's a weakness. You got to stop it there. Watch it before. Vedanta is not saying no. But if you think no, this is an impediment to getting up in the morning, no. No means no. Finish. That's what he's saying here. So his wisdom is established who has that complete control over their life. And why he's saying the senses is because that's where the whole problem starts. They're easiest to understand. It's not just senses. You have a weakness for emotions also, you're gone. All the time indulging in emotions. It's not just senses. But that is where the usual problem is for everyone. And where in today's world anybody teaches you any kind of self-control, any kind of higher value, unselfishness, nothing. Simply just do a ritual, do this, do that, and you'll be okay. There is no internal change at all. Just external mechanical rituals in the name of religions. Absurd. So this is what he says. Do you have that perfect intellectual control. So set your limits. Limits in the sense what you believe is acceptable for your journey in life and what is not. You stick to that no matter what happens. Unless there's an emergency. I can understand that. You gotta be with your friend in the hospital one night. You can't say I have to get up in the morning. So if there's an emergency, it's different. But stick to your discipline. That is perfection. Because that discipline will take you to the self if you follow it till the end. Yes, Vikram.
Gautamji, there's a question from your previous discussion short while back regarding lingering in things from Sandra. When we are lost in a daydream or imagination, are these also sense objects? Which of the senses are we using when making contact with these type of mental objects? And what should we do?
See, it's like I just said, Sandra, it is not just the senses. Your world is made up of perceptions which are sensual, right? The body sees, hears, tastes, smells, touches. This is perception. Then you have a mind which feels emotions, love, hate, attachment, revulsion, fear, anxiety, greed. These are all emotions. And then your intellect conceptualizes thoughts and ideas. Honor, dishonor, literacy, illiteracy, whatever it may be. So you are body, mind, intellect, and your world is perception, emotion, thought. Subject, object. That combination is the world, is your experience. So when you daydream, it is not a physical perception, it is your mind indulging in whatever areas of interest it has. So in real life, you want to marry someone and they won't look at you. So what you'll be daydreaming? That they've said yes, and you're in Hawaii, in the middle of, on top of a mountain. And that's all. What is that? Is a daydream. That's why it's called a dream. Or it could be opposite also, nightmares. So that is something which you fear. You will play that out. Or something that you like, you will play that out. So these are the two options. You're really afraid of losing your job. That will be in the night you will dream that you've given a letter, you're fired. So that is what it is. So your vasanas, which means your tendencies, manifest. Could be during the day, could be during the night. It's the same thing. So if you have an intellect, the minute that vision starts in your head, you will dismiss it. What do I ought to do now? If you don't have an intellect, same thing. You will start lingering in it. Clear? 69.
Yanisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. Yanisha sarvabhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe.
That which is night to all beings, therein the self-controlled keeps awake. That in which beings are awake is night to the sage who sees. So he has been talking high philosophy so far. So obviously we have to look at it in terms of Arjuna on that battlefield. He's a little lost. He doesn't know what's happening. So Krishna gives this statement more as a shock treatment to gain his attention, because it is a very, very strong, staggering truth. He says, what a human being is going through versus an enlightened soul is two completely different realms of experience. So that which is night to us, which we don't see, to them that is day. That which is day to us, is night to them. That's what he's actually saying. So what does it mean? Now, I have explained to you in terms of what we want. What do we want? All of us want happiness, right? And not only do we want happiness, we want a permanent happiness which never leaves us. If you really analyze your life, every creature wants that. Even a worm who's hungry is agitated. The mind, whatever mind they have, is disturbed. Only when they eat, it feels satiated, peaceful. So even if it's a basic instinct like that, it is sorrow, and you want to remove that sorrow. So all beings, including human beings, only want happiness, nothing else. And you want it forever. Because even a drug addict we've had, he has a drug, he gets a high. He says, I'm the happiest I've ever been. But it's followed by a misery and low. It's not enough. So what is enlightenment? Infinite happiness and permanence, immortality. That is enlightenment. Period. That is the state of pure consciousness. Ananda Rupam Amritam, says the Upanishads. Complete bliss, complete immortality. Take it or leave it. So that is their world. Once you get into the fourth state, the final state of enlightenment, versus our world. What is our world? Since that supreme bliss is our own nature, the minute you get into this world, the minute you leave the state of the self, it is sorrow. What you're going through right now, whether you're a billionaire or a trillionaire, whether you're the most beautiful or the most powerful, it is a state of complete sorrow, period. Because you're not in the state of the self, you feel there's something missing. You'll never be satisfied. So it's either mental sorrow or it could be physical sorrow. Could be going through something. It is sorrow, period. And it is a sorrow which is going to end in decay, disease, and death, inevitable. Unless you have done some great karma and get an instant death. Something blows up in the middle of the air, you won't even know you're gone. But it is sorrow, ending in death. Ataha anyat artam amritam asaram. Anything other than this is illusion, sorrow, and death, says the Upanishads. They just talk like that. Anything other than the self. It's an illusion of sorrow and death. That's our world, which you don't understand. I don't understand. Nobody understands. We're so complacent. So complacent. New Year. Yeah. What is New Year, no? What are we doing in New Year? What dish are you making? What dish am I making? This is your life. You know, no understanding at all of how temporary it is. And that temporary is filled with these unfulfilled desires. So you think it's they can't even conceive. Ramatirtha says, anything in this world to me is like licking emptied plates at a dinner table. Like going to somebody's refuse and licking that. That is this world. See, they can't relate to this at all. It is too low. It's too gross. And you can't understand them. They are mad. They left everything. Buddha left everything. The palace kingdom to go there. Look for what? Some will say something wrong. Now, who's right, who's wrong? That which is night to all beings, the self-control stays awake. That in which beings are awake is night to the sage who sees. So even relatively, you must, if you get a little taste of these higher values of life, friends, you'll never come back to this selfish, petty living. It's as simple as that. Any person who's seen freedom will ever go back to a prison. It's exactly like that. But a person who's born in a prison and his life is in the prison, he can't understand freedom. That's what Plato's metaphor, you all heard of it. It's a very famous philosophical metaphor. There's a generation of people living deep in the earth. They've never seen the sun. And their only entertainment is to see their own shadows in a little fire. That's their only entertainment. One person says, this can't be life, man. There has to be something else. And they all say, you're mad. Look at this, what we have. We see our shadows whole day. He says, that's what I'm saying. How can you be satisfied with that? They can't understand him. He can't understand them. So finally he leaves. And he is in pitch darkness. Now he has two options. Go back to that living, which he says, I will never do. Or keep going, which he has to do. And then finally he sees a little diamond in the distance, little shining light, which is the mouth of that cave. So at least he has something now. And as he goes closer, it gets brighter and brighter. Enlightenment is coming out of that cave. First time, imagine if you've seen the sun, the forest, the water, first time in your life. So that's the difference. That's what he's talking about. And then their only interest is to go back and try and get another person out. But nobody listens. And if he says too much, they'll finish him off. Christ was crucified. Socrates was sentenced to death. This is what happens. Until one person says, yes, I'm with you. So they go. That's the Guru Shishya Parampara, the student-disciple lineage, which has been going on for thousands of years. So you have to understand what they are saying. At least try and intellectualize it. So 69 is this, 70, 71 and 72. Last three verses we will conclude next time and then begin Karma Yoga, chapter 3. So there's no Q&A this week as we discussed because a new year. Now what to do? New year, what is so new? Same mind and intellect. What day is New Year this time?
Wednesday.
Wednesday is New Year. So just remember, Tuesday will become Wednesday. Same madness will continue. So don't make any resolutions, because none of you are going to keep it. Resolution requires intellect to keep. I will do this. After 1 week, you forgot what you said, what you did. So focus on building your intellect. But again, don't take it beyond the point. People all jumping, dancing in New Year. What is so new about it? Don't destroy it for others at least. So participate, whatever has to be done. But it's the same thing. Tuesday will be Wednesday. We'll see you on Saturday. That's all that will happen. Hari Om.